Before daylight, the Midwest looks harmless. A gravel road cuts through soybeans. A mailbox leans beside a drainage ditch. Somewhere behind a farmhouse, a yard light hums over a dog bowl, a woodpile, and a line of deer tracks pressed into soft mud. This is not the country most Americans imagine when they picture mountain lions. There are no red canyons here, no high desert cliffs, no Rocky Mountain ridges fading into snow. Just corn stubble, river timber, cattle pasture, county roads, and small towns where people still leave porch lights on because it feels like enough. Then, a trail camera clicks at 2:17 in the morning. One frame, gray and grainy. A long body moving low along the field edge. A thick tail curled slightly at the end. Ears forward, eyes reflecting white from the flash. In the morning, the owner stares at the picture and says the same thing people have said across the Midwest for years. That cannot be here. It must be a bobcat. It must be a dog. It must be someone's escaped pet. But the animal in the picture does not care what the map says. It is already past the barn, past the creek crossing, past the place where everyone was told the old predators disappeared. And that is what makes these sightings so unsettling. People do not feel safe because mountain lions are gone. They feel safe because they have trained themselves not to notice where one could pass. Today, we are looking at why mountain lions are being seen across the Midwest, why the explanation is not as simple as rumor or panic, and why the return of this animal feels more like a slow correction than a mystery. If you follow strange wildlife stories, dangerous animal encounters, and predators appearing where people think they do not belong, subscribe to the channel. Because the closer we look at these reports, the more one thing becomes clear. The Midwest was never empty. It was just waiting for something quiet enough to move through it. For generations, the mountain lion in the Midwest has lived in two places at once. Officially, in many states, it was gone. Locally, it never completely left the conversation. Hunters told stories. Farmers found tracks along creek bottoms. Drivers swore something big crossed the road ahead of their headlights. But without clear photos, DNA, or a carcass, most reports disappeared into the same category as old barn stories and local exaggeration. That is changing. Trail cameras now sit on fence lines, deer leases, river crossings, orchard edges, and back 40 logging roads. Doorbell cameras watch suburban ravines. Highway departments find animals that did not survive interstate traffic. State wildlife agencies have confirmed mountain lions in places where many residents were told not to expect them. Missouri has confirmed many cases while still finding no evidence of an established breeding population there. Nebraska, farther west but still part of this expanding Midwestern story, recognizes recolonized populations in areas such as the Pine Ridge, the Niobrara River Valley, and the Wildcat Hills. Michigan has documented many confirmed cougar sightings since 2008, mostly in the Upper Peninsula, and in recent years, even verified young cougars, a sign that unsettles old assumptions about how far reproduction might be returning. But the strangest part is not that mountain lions are appearing. The strangest part is how easily they can appear without being seen. A full-grown mountain lion may weigh over 100 pounds. A large male can be much heavier. It can take deer, cross rivers, move at night, hide in brushy ravines, and travel through broken habitat that people dismiss as too small, too farmed, too suburban, or too ordinary. The denial is always the same. There are no lions here. There is not enough wilderness. Somebody would have seen it by now. But a mountain lion does not need wilderness in the way people imagine wilderness. It needs cover, prey, water, and a route away from trouble. Across the Midwest, those routes still exist. They run along creek bottoms behind subdivisions, through railroad corridors, across conservation land, around reservoirs, beneath interstate bridges, and through wooded gullies too steep to plow. To a person, those places look like scraps. To a traveling predator, they can become a map. Most confirmed Midwestern mountain lions appear to be young males dispersing from established Western populations. That matters. A young male mountain lion is built by instinct to leave. When he reaches the age where older males will not tolerate him, he moves. He may travel hundreds of miles, sometimes across country that looks impossible on paper. He does not understand state lines. He does not know he has crossed from lion country into farm country. He follows deer, rivers, shelter, and darkness. That explanation is scientifically grounded, but it does not make the sightings feel less eerie. In fact, it makes them worse, because it means the animal at the edge of the beam is not a ghost. It is not folklore. It is a living predator doing exactly what its species has always done. Only now, it is doing it through a landscape filled with subdivisions, grain elevators, school bus stops, deer stands, boat ramps, and porch cameras. In Illinois, the mountain lion feels especially out of place to people who grew up thinking the state belonged to coyotes, whitetails, raccoons, and maybe the occasional bobcat. Yet, Illinois has had confirmed mountain lion records in recent decades, including animals documented by trail cameras and animals found after crossing too close to roads. The denial angle is powerful there. A lot of people see a grainy photo and tell themselves, that is just a big bobcat. But bobcats do not have that long rope-like tail. They do not carry themselves with that heavy, low fluid movement. And they do not make a cornfield edge feel like the mouth of a canyon. Illinois earns its place in this story because it proves the animal does not need mountains to make people question what is standing beyond the last row of trees. Iowa tells a similar story, but with an even more unsettling feeling because the landscape seems so exposed. Open fields, county roads, river timber, small towns, and farmsteads should make a large predator easy to notice. That is what people tell themselves. There is nowhere for it to hide. But Iowa is not one flat, empty field. It has wooded river corridors, rough draws, abandoned farm lanes, brushy creeks, and deer moving everywhere. A mountain lion crossing Iowa may never stay long enough to become part of the neighborhood, but it can pass close enough to leave one clear image and a week of uneasy conversation at the diner. The denial here is not just that the animal is misidentified. It is that the land itself is misunderstood. People look across a field at noon and think they are seeing everything. But the lion moves at night, not across the obvious center of the field, but along the dark seams where the field breaks into cover. Iowa matters because it shows how a predator can cross a human landscape by using the pieces humans ignore. Missouri is one of the strongest examples of the modern Midwestern mountain lion mystery because the state has both frequent reports and careful official language. Mountain lions had not been seen there for much of the 20th century until conclusive physical evidence began proving they were reappearing. Since then, confirmed cases have continued, but officials have still been cautious about saying there is an established breeding population. That caution matters because every time a mountain lion appears where people do not expect it, someone claims the government released it. That rumor survives because it is easier than accepting the more uncomfortable truth. The animal may not have been planted. It may have arrived on its own. In Missouri, the Ozark Hills, river bottoms, cattle farms, deer woods, and remote hollows create a landscape where a traveling lion can become a rumor before it becomes a confirmed record. Missouri earns its place because it exposes the oldest denial of all. People would rather believe in a secret release than admit the wild still has roots back in. Nebraska is where the story changes, from wandering animals to actual recolonization. In parts of the state, mountain lions are not just passing through. They have found country that can hold them. Places like the Pine Ridge, the Niobrara River Valley, and the Wildcat Hills may not sound like downtown America, but they sit inside the broader reality of the Great Plains and the Western Midwest, where farms, ranches, creek corridors, badlands, and timbered breaks create enough cover for lions to live, not just pass through. This is the part of the story that makes biologists pay attention. A single wandering male can be explained. A roadkill can be explained. A trail camera image can be explained. But recolonized pockets mean the animal has not only crossed a line, it has found enough prey, cover, and space to remain. The denial in Nebraska has shifted. It is no longer simply, "There are no lions here." In some places, it is now, "They are only out west, only in certain areas, only far from town." But predators do not read zoning maps. Nebraska earns its place because it is not just a sighting story. It is a reminder that return can begin quietly, one breeding pocket at a time. And then there is Michigan. For years, Michigan's cougar story was treated with caution. The animal was native to the state, but wiped out long ago, and modern confirmations were mostly in the Upper Peninsula. Officials often describe them as likely dispersing animals, with no confirmed breeding population. Then came verified evidence of cougar cubs in the Upper Peninsula, followed by later documentation of an adult cougar with young on a snowy trail. That changes the emotional weight of the story. A wandering male is one thing. Cubs are another. Cubs mean a female was there. Cubs mean the forest was not just a hallway. It was a nursery. The denial angle becomes harder to maintain. People can still say there are no cougars in the Lower Peninsula. They can still say the Upper Peninsula is different. They can still say it is rare. And much of that caution may be true. But the image of young cougars following an adult through snow does something official language cannot undo. It gives the old rumor a future. Michigan earns its place because the mystery stopped being only about where a lion came from and became about whether some are beginning to stay. At this point, the question is no longer whether mountain lions can appear in the Midwest. They can. The better question is why the sightings feel so difficult for people to accept. Part of the answer is memory. The Midwest was changed so thoroughly that many residents inherited a landscape already missing its largest native predators. By the time subdivisions spread around farm towns and deer became common in backyards, the mountain lion was already treated as a Western animal, something from national parks, postcards, and warning signs beside hiking trails. When a predator is gone long enough, people stop thinking of its absence as history. They start thinking of it as normal. But the land remembers differently. Deer trails still cut through creek bottoms. Turkeys still roost over ravines. Beavers still build in drainage ditches. Coyotes still move along railroad tracks. Bobcats have returned to places where they were once rare. Black bears wander farther than people expect. And mountain lions, more than almost any animal in North America, are capable of testing the weak points in a human map. They do not announce themselves with packs or dens beside houses. They move alone. They leave little evidence. They can pass within a mile of a subdivision and vanish into a strip of timber behind a golf course pond. They can cross a ranch road between two headlights and become a story nobody believes by breakfast. The danger is real, but it should not be exaggerated. Mountain lion attacks on people are rare, especially compared with the everyday risks people face from traffic, domestic dogs, livestock, storms, and ordinary accidents. But rare does not mean impossible, and rarity is not the same as absence. A mountain lion does not become harmless because it is unlikely. It becomes dangerous when people refuse to recognize the situation they are in. Running from one, approaching one for a photo, leaving pets unattended in known sighting areas, or dismissing fresh tracks near a deer kill can turn a rare encounter into the kind of mistake people remember for generations. The most unsettling Midwestern sightings often happen near places that feel too familiar to fear. A trail camera behind a hayfield, a snowy logging road, a creek crossing beside a deer stand, a brushy lot behind a subdivision, a rural highway shoulder where the animal appears only after it is dead. These are not wilderness scenes in the romantic sense. They are working landscapes, lived-in landscapes, places with mailboxes, tractors, propane tanks, school buses, and church signs. That is what gives the mountain lion its power in this story. It does not have to drag people into the wilderness. It brings the wilderness back to the edge of the yard. Nobody can explain every sighting because not every sighting is real. Some are bobcats, some are coyotes, some are dogs, some are shadows, house cats filmed close to a camera, or stories that grew in the telling. But the confirmed cases are enough to change the conversation. They show a pattern of dispersal, survival, and occasional recolonization that is bigger than rumor. They also show how slowly people update their understanding of danger. A wildlife agency can confirm a photograph. A lab can test DNA. A carcass can be measured. And still, someone nearby will say, "I have lived here my whole life, and I have never seen one." That statement may be true, but it does not prove the animal was never there. It only proves how good the animal is at passing unseen. Midwest is not becoming the Rocky Mountains. Mountain lions are not suddenly behind every barn or crouched beside every bike trail. But the old, clean line between lion country and not lion country is becoming harder to defend. The real map is made of deer density, cover, corridors, breeding females, wandering males, road mortality, and human tolerance. It is drawn in creek beds and timber strips, not state slogans. And as trail cameras keep watching the night, more of that hidden map is being revealed, one frame at a time. Maybe that is why these sightings disturb people so deeply. Not because mountain lions are everywhere, but because they prove something more uncomfortable. The disappearance of a predator was never the same as the disappearance of its habitat. We cut the woods into farms, then cut the farms into subdivisions, then told ourselves the old animals had no reason to come back. But a deer trail behind a house is still a deer trail. A brushy creek behind a shopping center is still cover. A dark ravine beside a school road is still a passage. And somewhere beyond the porch light, beyond the last fence post, beyond the place where the mowed grass gives way to weeds, a long-tailed cat can still move through the Midwest like it remembers what we forgot.